The following content is intended for mature audiences only. Hi, I'm Father David. Anxiety. We've all felt it in different ways, but anxiety disorders are the most common mental health issue in the United States, affecting 40 million adults. 19% of the population aged 18 or older every year suffers from anxiety. Anxiety disorders are highly treatable, and yet only 40% of those suffering receive treatment. So if you are listening and you're dealing with anxiety, you are not alone. Today, we will spend time learning and sharing about what it means to struggle with anxiety and what one can do about it. There are highly effective treatments for anxiety disorders, and we'll discuss these today and provide resources for you as well. If you suffer from anxiety, or if you know someone who does, there will be information following that may help. Father Frank Critch, one of our friars, lives with anxiety every minute of every day. While working at one of our parishes, Father Frank's anxiety became unbearable, and he sought treatment at St. John Vianney Center, which provides resources to religious and clergy members seeking treatment. Today, Father Frank will share his journey with anxiety with us. So, let's welcome Father Frank to Friar Time. Let's start talking. Frank, if you could tell me, help me understand, what does anxiety feel like? I know that you suffer from anxiety.
Mhm.
What does that feel like?
Debilitating.
Debilitating?
Yeah, in some ways. I have depression and anxiety together, so sometimes it's confusing with both and stuff. But anxiety, basically, it's I feel like when I walk into a room, I'm feeling judged right away. You know, I feel like I'm walking on pins and needles everywhere. You know, and I even know sudden noises or whatever that I can feel. I'm like Sophia, Michael's daughter. It can jump, you know. But part of it is it's just being anxious all the time, and then just anticipating. You're always anticipating something to happen. You know,
Something bad happening?
yeah.
Is it, it's obviously an intense feeling. Does it have degrees of intensity?
Oh yeah, totally. Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. Mine's after going down a lot. Thank God, of past year, so that's
Mhm.
good. But still, sometimes it pops up. Like I said before, with going into the dining room. Look, for me, the fries. In my head, I got to sit down, and in my head, I have to understand who I'm going to sit with, what the conversation is going to be about, how long I'm going to sit there, and what I'm going to do after. I need to have all that in place before I sit down.
If you don't have that in place, what happens?
I get so anxious, I got to leave. I can't do
I
it.
see.
So, and you know, that happened a lot when I first came to St. Francis. Now it's a little bit better now, so it's starting to dissipate a bit, which is good, you know.
So this is an intense physical
Oh yeah,
sensation.
yeah, and it comes on at any time.
Oh, anything can trigger this.
Anything can trigger.
And so how do you deal with that exactly?
Take a lot of deep breaths.
Uh,
When I get really anxious, it's worse than depression sometimes because you don't know, you're there and you can't focus and you can't concentrate on anything, you know, and you're trying to do as much as possible and you can't do anything, you know, so you feel absolutely worthless because you're given an assignment to do like something and you can't do it. And I might be a little bit of perfectionist sometimes, but and if I can't do something right, I won't do it at all, that kind of thing. So it's all or nothing kind of thing. You know?
Right.
So, you know.
Now, any of you who are watching might feel at times anxious about something, but that's not what we're talking
No.
about. This is anxiety. This is a real sensation, an issue in people's lives that paralyzes, that can paralyze you. So we need to be we need to be conscious of the fact that there are so many people that suffer from anxiety, and that so hopefully in our discussion, Frank, you'll help us to better understand if we do have anxiety, how we can helpfully deal with it, and if we know somebody who is suffering from anxiety, how that can help. So let me ask you if you could describe a situation where this kind of anxiety, let's say, stopped you from participating in something or from being with somebody you wanted to be with.
I
Yeah.
think for me, when I first came back, the Christmas time, remember?
Right.
And it was like at the Christmas, and I just couldn't do a Christmas party. I just couldn't. I got, I was setting up everything for the table and all that stuff for the evening, and it just, at that moment, I just said, I can't do this. And I went upstairs, and I just got so anxious. I went out for a walk, and it's so funny because when I went out for a walk, this homeless woman said to me, it gets better.
Really? Oh, so that's how much you could see
Yeah,
it.
you could see. I mean, I could feel it. I mean, I felt like I was walking into the pavement. I mean,
Really?
it was just one of those things that I just couldn't, and you couldn't control it at all. You had to wait for it to go down and stuff like that, and you had to wait for that lasted about a good day and a half, I think.
So when you say wait for it to go down, you mean wait for this physical
Yeah,
sensation to
because you feel it in your
subside?
chest. Anxiety is different. Anxiety you can feel with your body, I think, more than anything else.
Uh-huh.
Like you can feel it in your stomach, you can feel it in your chest. Sometimes, if you have when you have an episode, I call it, and when you have it gets a really intense episode, it feels like everything's pressing in on you, you know, and you can't catch your breath or anything like that. So,
Hmm.
and you're trying to, and then trying to function in the middle of it. It just is absolutely,
So it's kind of like it's all encompassing.
yeah, yeah.
So it crosses emotional
Oh
lines,
yeah,
physical
you
lines.
feel in your muscles, the whole works, everything.
Mm.
So,
So, let's say this time of this Christmas
mm,
party, you walked in the room and turned around and walked
yeah.
out because its sensation just
Well, it
overwhelmed
was
you.
just it was too intense.
So this would
Yeah,
create an avoidance kind of
yeah,
dealing with it by simply avoiding people or
yeah,
places that cause this
yeah.
situation. Um, and so how do you cope with it besides distancing yourself from it?
Well, there's medication, is one
Uh-huh.
thing, but I don't. I try not to. Me, but I do. I walk. It's my thing, and stuff like that. I have to get out of where I am and stuff like that, and I have to stay in my room because I can just bury myself in my room, to stay there and until it calms down,
Hmm.
and that takes a while, And I think that's where a lot of my irritability came from because I was so anxious and stuff like that. That basically, nothing could be done fast enough.
Oh, I see.
That kind of thing. So, and the thing is, I had no patience with myself or with others and stuff like that, and especially with myself. And like you always put high expectations on you, a higher expectation than you should, and trying to fulfill that is really difficult, and you can't do it, but you keep piling stuff on top and say, I can do it, and you can't, all of a sudden it just comes crashing down.
So can you give me a situation, all of us here? Um, so you suffer from anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you explain that to somebody? I mean, I think you've kind of, I think, did a pretty good job right here explaining it. But if someone says to you, well, what exactly does that mean, Frank? What would you say to them?
Everything is like there's lots of focus for sure, and you're all. It's like your brain is on hyper. This hyperactivity. You're sort of everywhere and nowhere. That kind of thing. And like there's lots of focus, and basically you're. Some people call it bipolar, but it's not bipolar, but it can be. And that's part of one of the symptoms and stuff like that. But it's just been so nervous. I think that's the best word. Hyper nervous about doing anything.
Hmm.
You know, because even driving the car, sometimes you have to say, I have to pull over sometimes just to say, this is not good. Not now, thank God, but
Hmm.
before it was. And the thing is that for me is like when I went to the center, like I wouldn't go to meals for the first 3 weeks, 4 weeks, because I just I couldn't handle it. I just couldn't handle being around strangers, especially and stuff like that. And I hated people asking me questions about what I'm doing and who I am and all this stuff. So that made me even ultra anxious and stuff like that. And that's where the hard stuff came in, and that's why I ended up in the hospital a couple of times with high blood pressure.
Because it
It-
physically
yeah,
grabs you
yeah.
too.
And I had my blood pressure was quite high, and so that was a big issue. So I ended up in the hospital a couple of times with it and stuff, and I didn't realize that that was part of it.
Mhm.
You know, so basically that's a good sign. The blood pressure is a good sign. If you can't get it down, then basically you need help.
So, what would be one of the greatest, let's say, fears or phobias that come with anxiety?
Death.
Death?
Yeah. Part of it is like you're nervous about everything. Things that you focus on so much stuff. Like I did focus mostly on my brother and sister because I shouldn't have and stuff. That was a big part of it. So going home in the middle of the pandemic, doing the funerals and stuff like that was, was maybe the best, but one of the worst times of my life. So and it still hurts. So when I focus on that, it kind of my anxiety goes up
Hmm.
like now again.
So,
So
right now you're
yeah,
feeling
yeah,
anxiety?
yeah. Yeah.
Tell us what that.
Well, the thing is that like you overwhelming sense of like you're just gonna start crying, for this one thing, and you just don't know where the feelings are coming from or where they're going.
Mhm. Was
And,
some of this coming from the death of your brother and
but
sister?
yeah, yeah, a good part of it.
Is that unresolved grief
A
or?
little bit, yeah. It's still there. You sort of end up blaming yourself for everything, so and you get anxious about that whole thing, and just your sort of nerves kind of take a toll, and you become anxious about so much stuff. And but I mean, like once you realize that, you can calm. I'm able to calm myself down now
Hmm.
more than anything else.
How do you do that? How do you calm yourself down?
Just,
This would be helpful.
I think it's breathing, just focus. Just learn to just focus. What I've learned to do is just focus on one thing. Even if you're sitting in a room, just focus on one thing and just get your mind away from whatever it is.
Hmm.
And so that really helps.
And
'Cause
breathing?
breathing, yeah. Because the worst thing you do is just go and do some different activities and stuff. You just got to focus on one thing.
Hmm.
That's why the cooking, and that again, that's the hunting anxiety lessons when I cook and stuff like that, because you're focused on one or two things and you're allowed to go through. So.
So, if you focus on a specific thought or
Yeah,
situation or
yeah,
process, that helps the anxiety
yeah,
lessen
yeah,
because it takes you away from the other
yeah.
thoughts.
Like
I
if
see.
I'm in the midst of people, like the things that like in a church, if I'm sitting in a congregation, I get anxious. I'm just totally anxious because you're in the middle of people.
Hmm.
But if I'm in sanctuary by myself, I'm fine.
And what is that
I,
about?
I have more control, I think, over
Oh, I
my
see.
environment and
You're
stuff than anybody else.
mm,
You know, and also I'm focused on one thing, focused on following through the whole
uh-huh,
thing, and so that's when that helps me with my anxiety
uh-huh.
more than anything else.
So, considering what you've just said, if you can help us understand, and this I think could be problematic for anybody who suffers from
Mm,
anxiety, or if we know somebody
mm.
who suffers from anxiety. So, have you ever had to make a life decision or a major decision while you're suffering from
Oh
anxiety?
yeah.
And how do you do that?
Well, the thing is, it's tough because usually what you they always say the risk factors are high when
Hmm.
when you're anxious and stuff like that. When you come from an anxiety perspective and stuff. So the thing is that it's very difficult. You should never ever never ever ever make decisions when you're high anxiety, because a lot of risky decisions are made when someone's anxious
Yeah,
and stuff like that. And usually they're either dangerous decisions or basically decisions that are not compatible with the person's personality and stuff. So
right.
so it's just totally out of realm.
So listening to you, and I'm sure those who are watching, to go through this this anxiety that kind of just grabs the whole
Mhm.
physical, spiritual, emotional person, uh, that's got to be exhausting.
Yeah.
So how do you deal with the exhaustion of this?
I don't know. I used to, well, if that was the thing, you didn't sleep. Insomnia was a big thing. You were with depression. But that was a big issue because your mind was just racing and racing, 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 and stuff like that. And you get to the point where you finally fall asleep in the afternoon for 2 or 3 hours, or you end up crying in your office, that kind of thing. That was a big part of it because you're so tired,
Yeah,
and you're not tired, like not tired physically, but emotionally too. Just like, just I can't handle this. I can't handle it. And nothing, you can't focus on anything. It's tough. I think that's worse than depression sometimes because, it kind of makes you hyper aware in some ways, but aware of the wrong things. You know,
uh-huh.
so
It sounds like it's just this massive explosion of energy
Yeah.
that just has no place to
Yeah,
go.
it does. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it gets so, and it's tiring, you know. Oh, yeah.
Now, are there certain times when it's more manageable than others?
Yeah, when I'm by myself.
When you're by yourself?
Yeah, sometimes you have to go walk through it. You know, you can't. It's like a wall. You know, it's I suppose like anxiety. You just have to say to yourself, "Look, I can do this," and you have to just do it. And once you keep doing it, you know, it gets easier and easier.
Mhm.
You know, so, but you can't allow it to take over your life. You know, like I did, and that's what happened.
How do you envision your relationship with anxiety, so to speak, evolving in the future?
Yeah. I think part of it is ongoing. I mean, I don't know how long this is going to last.
But I mean, in reality, with this anxiety in
Yeah.
front of you or part of you, you know that on the other side of that, there isn't anything logical that's really stopping you.
Yeah.
For example, from walking into the dining room.
No, but I think, yeah, from my perspective, there is.
Right.
No, and that,
Okay. Well, tell me what
Well, I think
logically would there be?
I don't know. I think getting probably the most logic thing. It doesn't make it
It doesn't make sense.
doesn't make sense.
But
No.
it's the emotion
Yeah.
that's driving
But
it.
and I try to make it as logical as I can. I said,
Uh-huh.
you know, I said, oh, well, I don't like that person. I don't want to eat that. I don't want to.
Yeah.
But the thing is that you really need someone there to basically say, okay, look, you're starting a pattern again.
Hmm. So you need somebody who can honestly call you up
Oh, yeah.
call you on this and say this is not
Yeah.
you shouldn't be doing
Yeah.
this. You shouldn't be
Yeah.
moving into
Yeah.
this pattern again.
Yeah. You get to the point where you just crash. You know, you just can't do it anymore. You know, it's like, oh, you know, and that's what happened that Friday. I would say that Friday was depression, anxiety. Was just like two of them just came together, and just like there was absolutely nothing I could do.
And as horrible a day as that was, it was probably a day that really
Oh
turned
yeah,
your life around.
yeah. And the thing is that for me it was one of the best days in some ways because I realized I needed help. And I think that was a big thing. So,
Mhm.
and once I started reaching out, my anxiety, I remember on the bus to New York City that day, I cried the whole way through it, you know, so, because it was such a release, you know.
Kind of like I know now I need the help.
No,
Yeah.
no, and now, and I'll be fine, you know.
Uh-huh.
And that was the thing, so. Because remember, for the first 2 weeks when I was at the center, they're asking me, how do you feel? And every time somebody asked me to feel, I just cried. And I said, don't ask me that anymore. You know, so it's like, but I got easier, you know.
Uh-huh.
But that was the work. I mean, that was anxiety for 4 weeks straight. You know,
Wow.
and like even down there, I couldn't sleep at night and stuff. That was a big issue and stuff like that. So I had to work with a sleep person and with a psychologist with that part of it, and just every single thing. Like I had to relearn a lot of things
Mhm.
for myself, you know. And the things that like I'd learned that basically I have to prioritize things in my life. You know, I just can't say yes, 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 yes. You know, there's got to be certain things. So it's part of it, you know. It's growth, you know.
Yeah, and it seems like there's a lot of growth that's happened,
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
and so you're well on your way to dealing with it.
Oh yeah, I am.
And I think anybody would know this is a lifelong process.
Yeah.
This is like prayer or anything
Oh, yeah.
else. It takes a lifetime to really delve into these things and
Yeah.
to work with them,
Yeah. I think-
which you're doing.
yeah. And that's why I like Francis of Assisi because he had anxiety, he had depression, he had it all. So, you know, I can look at him. Although he died a very thin man, so
He
maybe-
did.
oh.
Thank you, Frank, for sharing that
Yeah.
that unbelievably tender, and touching, and difficult journey that you're on.
Thank you too.
And we know you're well on your way to doing very well
I
with it.
know.
We thank
Lots
you.
of help. So thank you.
Thank you for listening. Thank you very much,
Yeah.
Frank, for being with us. This has been Friar Time, and we will see you again soon. If you or someone you know is seeking help for mental health concerns, visit the National Alliance on Mental Health website at www.nami.org or call 800-950-6264. For confidential treatment referrals, visit the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration website at findtreatment.gov or call the National Helpline at 800-662-4357. In an emergency, contact the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline at 800-273-8255 or call 911.